Is more of the same actually good news in real estate? This week on the It's Real podcast, Kayla and I are rehatching our biggest takeaways from the Hatch Real Estate Summit and talking about what's really happening in the market. Mortgage rates haven't moved dramatically, and while affordability is still a challenge, that stability gives buyers and sellers a little more certainty. We're also talking about the new housing affordability bill, the prediction that the typical home could eventually hit $1 million, and a wild seller disclosure question: if you have a bad neighbor, do you have to tell the buyer? It's real estate, real talk, and a full market reset after Hatch. The It's Real podcast starts now. You're tuned in to the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla Calendar and Andrew Yagi. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go.
It's episode 111. I'm Kayla Calendar and I'm a mortgage lender.
And I'm Andrew Yagi. Kayla, how you doing?
Fabulous. How are you today? I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. How have you been last week?
I know. I've been good. It was good to see you last week in person. I get a lot of comments from people about, our podcasts and about us connecting, people loving to learn, to hear about mortgage, real estate, and just hear from us and see us. But, one thing that most people probably don't realize is it was probably 2 years, since I saw you the last time in person.
It's crazy. I said that to one of the girls that was at the event, and I'm like, I can't believe it's been that long, but it is pretty cool. I was at a dog bakery getting treats for my dogs, and someone's like, do you do a podcast with Andrew Yagi? And I'm like, yes, I do. And so it's fun. We talk about it all the time, Andy. It's like, okay, are we reaching people? What's, is it worth it? I think everyone wonders, the time you put into something, is it worth it? And get a lot of feedback and, love the podcast. I learned something, and a lot of people know you too. So it's pretty cool.
Right on.
Amen.
What's going on this week?
Not a ton this week. I think it kind of slows down in mortgage, around the 4th of July, just for a minute, people go on vacation. So I'm seeing kind of a slowdown in general, but I mean, I'm still wondering if it's summer or not based on the weather we're having.
Maybe next week.
Maybe next week. I mean, we'll see, but it's been a weird summer. It's been a moody weather summer, but it is what it is. What's going on in your world?
For sure. Just playing catch up after coming off of 3 days at the Hatch Summit last week. And, even though I would say, the market's relatively strong, it's not gangbusters. Lakeshore's a little bit slow, but there's still never any shortage of things to do, fires to put out, people to talk to. And even our team, just kind of trying to keep them motivated coming off of a great event for those that were able to come. So, and kids activities, kids get done with school and it's like camp season where everybody's got basketball camp, hockey camp, tennis camp, Bible camp. You name it, there's a camp. Yeah. So I feel like we're kind of getting through some of that. There will still be some ongoing stuff, but yeah. No shortage of activity.
So do you cap what your kids can do? Hey, you can choose 3 camps, or how does that work in your family?
No, we really don't. It's just kind of whatever their interests are, we can. Within reason. They're not each doing 10 things, but, just kind of looking at, hey, where are their interests? What are their friends doing? And, what fits the schedule as well, and kind of rolling with it.
It's a lot, though, I hear. And I've been single momming it just for a couple of days because my husband's out of town for a bit, but our dogs are in school this week, obedience school. We got a 2-dog discount. So we're like, we're going to put our dogs in obedience school. We've never done it before. We've trained them on our own. But Andy, props to parents out there, because I've had to do drop off between 7:30 and 9. So I typically drop them off before 8. And then pick up between 3 and 5. Well, plus I've got 2 dogs at home. So I'm going home for lunch, and man, oh man, just mad respect for all the parents out there, because I don't know how you guys do it.
Right. Yeah, it can get
It's a
busy at
lot.
times, but yeah, but you just gotta roll
Mhm.
with it, you make it happen, and my wife sent me a reel, I think a couple of days ago where it was like 3 generations of children sitting there with, even, like, grandma sitting there and just talking about how her favorite times in life were when everything was busy and chaotic. In the younger years, with all of the kids, didn't have very much money, didn't know how we were gonna make it, didn't know how we were gonna fit all of these things in. It was exhausting, but boy, I
Worth
really
it.
miss those days. So,
Yeah. One day those kiddos are going to be gone, Andy, and it's just going to be you guys in the nest. So
yep,
enjoy the chaos now.
I'm hearing you there. So, what? So you kind of mentioned that mortgage may be a little bit slower with new apps. What
Yeah.
do you see?
Well, what I'm saying is, again, I think it's this time of year. I've talked to probably 10 other lenders nationally. One of them said it was the slowest that they've been in a decade. Another said it was the slowest they've been in a couple of years. And I think it's just for multiple reasons. Time of year, I think that rates are still scaring people. I think the golden handcuffs of people in their 2, 3, 4% interest rate is still holding people back. I think people are finding things are more expensive and they're just thinking about it more. So I just think there's some hesitation. And I always hear, we're going to wait for the house to come on the market before we apply. There's those people too. So I just think it's just a season, maybe a couple weeks that we'll see a lull, but we're still getting purchase agreements. We're still, closing loans. We're going to close 18 families this month. So it's still busy on that end, but I always go by what are we seeing with activity, leads and applications, and it's just a little quieter. So,
Mhm.
which
Yep.
is okay. It allows you to kind of refine what you're doing and your processes and kind of get things together. And truthfully, like people are on vacation and they don't want to be moving right now, but we know what's going to happen. It's going to pick up right before end of, the summer here because people are going to want to be in properties by the time school starts. So we know it's going to pick up
Happens every year.
every year. So yeah, I mean, are you witnessing this too, or like what are you seeing in your market?
Yep, I think so. I think that, like you say, hesitation. I'm seeing it in a lot of different areas, different price points. But especially for people who are looking at, the retirees who maybe are looking at leaving their home, getting into something more slab on grade, twin home, townhome. That's been a slower market. Lakeshore again, the second home market's been a little bit slower. Things north of 350,000 in our immediate market is a little bit slow too. But yeah,
Mhm.
I've talked to a couple of other lenders too, and one lender was really quiet starting off and just has been
Yeah,
gangbusters. Another one had a busy first quarter and very slow quarter two. So it'll be
mhm.
interesting. The business always comes. You just got to get
It
out there and have
does.
more conversations and kind
Mhm.
of find the more motivated people.
Yeah. Well, I will give you this stat that if my team and I didn't help any more families the rest of this year, we've already helped as many families year to date as we did last year. So it's
Wow,
busy. We had a
that's
lot of
incredible.
yeah, it's great. And we've added on team members like to help support. But a lot of the February, March, April were a lot of refis too, though. So, those have kind of halted a bit, but, we'll see what the rest of the year brings. Like you said, business is always there.
Mhm.
What is it?
Absolutely.
The 70s, the 90s, diapers, diamonds, divorce.
There were
What
like 9 Ds.
was it? 9
There were like 9 of them. Yeah.
dogs. That was an extra
Dogs.
one.
Dogs was fun.
Death.
Death, divorce, diamonds, diapers, dogs.
I added that one. Death.
I don't remember.
We'll go revisit that episode.
We'll have to the 90s revisited later on. So, well, hey, let's talk a little bit about the Hatch Summit, though. So,
Yeah.
I've been telling you for a few years that you should come to it.
Mhm.
I brought most of our team came to it, which was really awesome. I was happy that most of our team members were able to make it. I was even happier that you were able to come and take part as well. But I mean, it was a really, really great event.
It was. I will tell you, I'm glad that you told me to go because I'd seen it, I'd heard about it, and I don't know why I never clicked to go. I think I just immediately thought realtors, and it was an event just for them. But I will tell you, Eric Hatch brought some quality talent to Fargo, and the people that were speaking, I thought they were the quality of speakers that I would see in Las Vegas. And in fact, Neil, who spoke, runs an event in Vegas. He speaks at it, and I'm going to that next month. I thought the quality was incredible. It was better than I expected.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, when I first came 3 going on 4 years ago, I don't know what it was. I mean, I thought it was really great, and kind of would echo that. And you go to most conferences or conventions, and there are a couple of things that are really like over the top excellent. There's a lot right in the middle, and there are some that are like, okay, like I didn't really need to see that. But all in all, it was a great event and just a great variety, all the way down to Kayla. I thought it was kind of neat. Uh, was it, is Connor his name, the 12-year-old who basically started his own pretzel company, Twistology, and is out there making seasoned pretzels, and out there doing really well with it. I mean, that was really kind of a neat touch, just kind of looking at how, I mean, just kind of a different perspective.
That kid, I mean, it just goes to show you it doesn't matter how old you are. And did you try his pretzels, by the way?
I did.
They were good. I got the Chipotle barbecue, and they were delicious. But just the confidence of the child, I'm just like, dang, like you are so far ahead of the game compared to most kids. I mean, I wasn't that mature at that age, but it was cool just to have him speaking and on stage and on that like fireside chat type panel. It was really cool. I mean, you can learn from anybody, doesn't matter the age. Yeah, what a great kid.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of watch him and see where he goes. But what were some of your biggest takeaways?
I took so many notes. I would say my takeaway was I really enjoyed that it was in a church, even though there was some swearing happening, and I kind of felt bad. But I would say I liked that there was starting with prayer, and that we were keeping it front and center about like our impact and how many people you can touch and what's your purpose. I think there's so many conferences that I go to that it's like, what do you want to make, and how much, do more business, do more deals. And I think that the thought of, having more and giving more and sharing more, like impacting more, like I said, when that comes front and center, the rest, you hear it all the time, the rest falls into place. So I really appreciated that. I would say I had a lot of takeaways of just like who you are in here, and hearing that Eric raised 432,000 for human trafficking. It's like there's so much impact that can be had. I really liked the just different types of people, from men to women to young to seasoned. There was that Dawson realtor from Idaho who spoke, and he said he lost his brother in that accident, and he was so darn confident in his work as a realtor that it's one thing that hit me was don't confuse arrogance with confidence and vice versa. And like just hearing what people go through, I just think ultimately it's all about in here, and that's what my takeaway was. It wasn't like do more business, it's focusing on who you can help. It sounds cheesy, but that was kind of like my takeaways from the speakers.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? Was there anything that like hit you, or that any favorite individual that got up on stage?
I really enjoyed Neil as well.
Yeah.
One of his slides really kind of stuck with me, Kayla. The world makes room for passionate people.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at, and I kind of shared this with my team a little bit, talking about the fact that you may not have, the greatest number of relationships with individuals. You may not be the most polished agent, the best prospector, have the most knowledge in the world, because sometimes, I'll hear, even some individuals on my team say, well, I'm newer at this. I don't have the knowledge that, I feel I should. And so I don't want to, I've got kind of some imposter syndrome, so I'm going to hesitate until I'm an expert at this.
Mm-hmm.
And, I tell them often, and I tell everybody in life, sometimes you just have to start. Like there are things that I don't know the answer to. Like I just ran into a really weird transactional issue that I didn't know the answer to. And I even reached out to a broker who manages a ton of agents in Fargo. It's more of a North Dakota deal. And they couldn't even 100% give me accurate advice on it until reviewing it.
Mm-hmm.
At which point, sometimes you just have to go, you just have to do. And if you do something that you're really, really passionate about, the rest is going to take care of itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you can be the best at XYZ. You can be the most educated. You can be in it for years, the most experienced realtor, lender, whatever industry you're in. But also, if nobody knows about you as well, then no one's going to come to you. And I think, Neil does a good job about, it's not about being flashy online and showing up and being like, sales, I do this. It's showing up and educating people, showing up and letting people know who you are, because how are they going to know about you unless you do that? And so I think social media and your personal brand, it used to come off as like, it felt like arrogant, like, who am I to, get online? But I mean, Andy, you have people that come to you and it's like, I saw your podcast, I saw your post, and thank you, I learned something. Like, you have to put yourself out there. And I see loan officers. I had one, yes, I love that. Well known, known well. People
Yes.
want to work with people they know. And we hear it all the time, who you know, like, and trust. But it's true. I had a lender the other day tell me, she goes, I wish I didn't suck at video. All of my friends are paying cash for homes. They don't need loans. Like, they were just kind of like excuses. But I'm like, but we're seeing that older generation be like, I need to get in front of people because that's where the consumers are going. And now more than ever, people get to know you before they know you,
Right. Yep.
So,
Get out of your own way. Again, I've told agents on my team that as we do a lot of video, and some have said, oh man, I look awful. I need to reshoot this. I'm not good at this.
mm-hmm.
And I've said, no, we're not going to reshoot it. We're going to roll with it. It's good. You're your own worst critic.
Yeah.
You need to just do it. You can't expect to have Savannah Guthrie's presence when you've never done it before. It's like me and flying, showing up to the airport and being upset on my first day of flying that I can't fly a jet.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't work that way. You have to get out there and you got to put the work in.
Mm-hmm. You do. And at the end of the day, people are not, I mean, maybe some are, but they're not judging you based on if you flubbed up on a video. They're genuinely wanting to learn. And I think now more than ever, I had noted here, millennials love DIY. They want to do it themselves. They want to know how to do something. So show up and like give away your secrets, give away, because that just comes back full circle. And I think that you got to just get out of your way, like you said.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of my biggest takeaways from Hatch, Kayla, was subtraction, doing less.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really good at adding and trying this tool and that tool and whatever, not, doing something for a little bit, like, okay, that was really cool, but I'm going to drop it over here and I'm going to go and I'm going to go and I'm going to move on to something else. But at a certain point, it just gets to be overwhelming, at which point you're not executing, you're in an inch deep versus a mile wide, or whatever, however the saying goes. But so just subtracting things, getting back to basics, even with our team, really working at being intentional about reaching out to people. And I see so many people in real estate sales, even mortgage, no doubt, they ride the roller coaster of the ups and downs of, prospecting super hard, getting busy, stopping the prospecting, not having any business, and up and down. It's kind of a vicious cycle. And so, we're talking about that consistent communication with people, not that you're here to sell them, that you're here to serve them. If you appear kind of with, a servant's heart, a servant's mindset, things are going to go really well for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think too, like communication, I mean, people just want to be communicated with. I have kind of to, piggyback off what you said. It's reps. You're not confident if you're not prepared. You don't perform if you haven't prepared. And I get that. Like the calls that I hopped on, I had a call with a client today. I went through my notes. I went through the file. I went through some scenarios. I got prepped because, preparation is such key. We all know this, but I think a lot of us get really in our heads if we've never done something before. And in our business, things are always changing. It's never going to be the same. I'm always learning. But also, like, one of the takeaways I had are to say to yourself, what are my weaknesses? And if you get better at that, that's key. Where I've always been like, oh, I just need to focus on what I'm good at and just hone in on that, which I think to an extent, yes, you should, but also to focus on your weaknesses. Like, focusing on what can you do better and what can you do more of. And it's just doing those reps to get better. But I thought overall, and I think it was Monique that talked about that, the hockey realtor,
Mm-hmm.
she was interesting, by the way,
Yeah, very
just
much.
hearing about how she grew up. And I mean, I think we look at athletes the same way. I mean, look at how athletes show up. Did you ever watch that Michael Jordan documentary it was on Netflix?
I think I did. I don't recall the specifics. I was a big Michael Jordan fan, even though I'm not much of a sports fan.
Yeah, they just talk about like you just show up, you keep showing up, you keep showing up, and at the end of the day, I mean, what the result's going to show for itself. So I do agree with that. Although I would never fly a plane, Andy.
I think you could fly a plane. I think we got to get you up flying a plane one day.
I don't know. We'll see.
Good. Kayla, you know what really kind of struck me, and we know that there's economic uncertainty, there's fear in the market. We
Yeah.
know that there are financial challenges, but when Mark King shared this slide,
Hmm.
kind of talking about how every warning light in the economy is red for the first time since the
Yeah.
pandemic, Americans are falling behind on all four debts. And
Hmm.
let's talk about that from your perspective a little bit
Mm.
because you see financials all the time. We as agents don't really.
Yeah, I see it all the time. You're right. This talks about student loans, credit cards, auto loans, mortgages. So I will tell you that it surprises me frequently that when I pull credit and I see a client's history and I see their credit score and I see their missed payments, how upset they are if they're not pre-approved. You know what I mean? Like they're like, what do you mean? And I said, well, you've been late on, 30 days late on this, 60 days on this, 90 days. Your child support is behind and they're confused. Like, why can't I get a mortgage? When we look at the data, a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. Now, when I look at student loans, I think it's very common to see student loans. A lot of them are in deferment. A lot of people, Andy, they're not even paying their student loans. I've had some clients that I'm like, hey, you're in deferment still. And they're like, no, I'm not going to pay until I have to. Credit cards is a big one, a huge one. They talk about all the time that interest rates are the biggest, issue with home ownership, where I look and I see, what about credit cards? People are putting money on credit cards at 24% interest and they can't dig themselves out. I think that, a lot of people go to school. I'll probably get some heat for this, but I question college. I mean, you and I went and we talked about this the other day. There was a lot of great things from that, but how many people use their degree? And I think about that. So it's like, I think that we're just put in this society of like, put it on a card, go to school, pay your student loans back. But those two are some of the biggest issues that I see.
And take extra student loan debt out, take the max amount out, and use part of it to go to Cancun for spring break.
Or to go to the buckle. Yeah.
Did
Do
you
you
do
remember
that?
that?
Did you do that?
Yeah, of course I did. I didn't know any better. I was like, oh yeah, buy now, pay later.
I was a small town girl from Walhalla, North Dakota, who nobody taught me about finance, and said,
No.
"Hey, go do it. Go get a degree. It's going to be a good idea."
Yeah. And do you remember like FAFSA filling out? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I didn't
Mhm.
even remember that, but I just recall like, oh, I'm gonna get money in my account. And I remember getting like private loans, and my sister hooked me up. She's like, yeah, go get private loans. And I'm like, okay, like, how are we to know? And so I think a lot of people are paying for those bad decisions even today in adulthood.
I
Still.
was talking to my college freshman roommate Tarek the other day. We had lunch a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about school and debt and money and everything. And I asked him one of our first days on campus, we walked up to Subway on 19th Avenue, and there was the Citibank like MasterCard rep there. Hey, apply for a Citi card and get a free foot long sub. Well, what college student's going to say no to that?
Well,
But
right.
talk about a predatory lending practice, where
Mhm.
you're finding these college kids and getting them into a credit card. I got rid of the card a long time ago. Ironically, he still has that card 20 years later.
Really? Oh,
Really?
wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I remember like, yeah, sign up, do this, get a free whatever, and get a free toaster, get whatever it is. But yeah, I just look back and I think that consumers now, kids now have access to so much more information that they can, self teach themselves. But I think our parents did the best that they could, Andy. Like Tara
For
and I
sure.
talk all the time of like, like I didn't even know what I wanted to do while I was in college. I was in college for a year before, I don't know if you know this, before I even decided what I wanted to do. I paid money for a university 189 class that helped me decide what I want to do.
Doug Rimpf pointed you in the right direction.
Thunder. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, you want to know who it was though? I don't know if I ever told you this. What made me decide to go into like a marketing business wasn't even a professor. It was Pete Simonson, who taught sports marketing, and he was a business owner in town. And I was just like, he like made it, connect, and I really appreciated what he had to share. And now I think people can go to conferences, they can hop on podcasts, they can, connect with other business owners or whatever it is in your industry. But unless I feel like you're going to school for a specific, like, a doctor or engineering, I just don't know if it's the path of most people these days.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. And well, it'll be
Mhm.
interesting to see kind of what the future holds. And I mean, especially with
Mhm.
technology and AI.
Yeah.
I feel like at a certain point, something's got to give. When we look at that graphic and see everything coming to a head, I mean, I don't know how the economy can stay afloat, perpetually with all of those factors.
Yeah, I mean, and how people even dig out, it's like, where do you even go from here? Because a lot of people, I also noticed too, Andy, are in W-2, here's what I make per year, which is great. But it's like to shoot for more income or to, achieve more money, they have to, climb a ladder. And I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, what do I do? Do I get rid of Hulu? Do I get rid of Netflix? They're trying to make these huge steps to pay off debt, but they can't make that leap, you know?
What does the average person have in subscriptions per month? How many dollars?
400.
Like 200 and some dollars.
Is it? I was wondering, how much do you have?
Well, boy, my team was joking because that was, I think Mark King talked about that, and they were
Yeah.
joking with me. Well, what do you have? And knowing that I do so much AI development and pay for tokens and the like, I mean, probably thousands of dollars a month. But I'm actually building something. I'm building things that are useful in our business and things that could potentially go to market one day and actually are going to probably
Yeah.
support some business startups. So of course, do
Mhm.
we have Netflix? Do we have Disney and whatever else? Yes. Do I
Yeah.
watch it? No, no, not really.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. But really think about that, Kayla. You talk about our parents not being able to prepare us. Our parents didn't have anything to subscribe to. There weren't monthly subscriptions.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think too, it's like they, as bad as it sounds, it's like they also didn't have the comparison or like, how easy it is to sign up for something on Instagram or this coaching or this AI. Like there are things thrown at us as consumers constantly. Like even I look at my subscriptions and it's like from just think of like a marketing AI like perspective from Gemini to Claude to Perplexity to chat. Those are just AI to think about your editing softwares or your Canvas or your cap cuts. And then there's, you have to pay $15 a month to be verified with Instagram. It's like, and Meta. And it's like they're constantly thrown at this. And then what happens is you set it and you forget it. I have a Peloton membership and I haven't used my Peloton much. And I forgot to cancel my membership or pause it. And $50 is out of my account, poof, gone. So
Yep.
yeah, I think
I,
it's
I've got to be fair to our parents' generation because there were subscriptions like the Columbia House, like the cassette tape or CDs or some of those things
oh my gosh.
or whatever. But
Uh,
anyway, we could talk finance all day and the like, but maybe a couple of interesting topics. We talk about the cost of living and how everything's high and it continues to go up. Very interesting article. You think about the average home price in our respective markets, anywhere like in mine from probably 230 to, maybe Fargo's 4 to 500,000. If you look across the board, or 3 to 4, or whatever it is. But
Mhm.
it shocked me, Kayla. The typical home, when we as millennials hit retirement, do you know what it's going to cost?
When we hit retirement, what would, on average?
On average,
Well, $1 million.
$1 million. dollars.
Am I correct?
You are correct. $1 million.
Wow.
Around
I mean,
2050, when the millennial generation is hitting the age of retirement, homes are going to cost $1 million. So 25 years. Think about that. And that's from the economists at the National Association of Realtors. Can you fathom that?
well, and that's on average. That's not even, thinking about like if you have a more luxury lifestyle or you have a, bigger family, like my goodness, that's not what I expected, but that's not that far away.
They noted that even in 1990, in the day of the Columbia House subscriptions, in San Francisco, which was considered a fairly exorbitant real estate market,
Mm-hmm.
especially at that time, had a median price of only 250,000. So last month, nationwide, 430,000
Hmm.
was the median price. But that's what the scenario points to in about 25 years. So what does
Hmm.
that say for home ownership and wealth building, Kayla? Kind of
Well,
like the two
by
pieces
now,
that we talk about as well. Buy a house, there's forced appreciation, take
yes.
that employer match in your retirement account. Those are the two biggest drivers of wealth for the average consumer.
Mhm. Well, and we talk about it all the time. The average homeowner has 40 times the amount of wealth than a renter. And, I had a client today, Andy. He's like, we're going to wait and we're going to wait 25 months to save. And I'm
25.
like, okay,
Hmm.
interesting. But, I appreciate people that are detailed. But the amount of money that someone's going to save over 2 years, well, what's going to happen? Home prices are going to increase. So the amount that 10,000 that you saved, well, the house that you want to buy is now $30,000 more. And I think that yes, you need to make sure you can afford your monthly payment. You do not want to be house poor. And home ownership is not for everybody. But instead of looking at an $1,800 a month rent payment versus a $2,500 a month mortgage payment, so many people just look at that difference, but they forget about that equity gain, that forced savings, that appreciation. And on what, a $400,000 home average rate of appreciation, 20 grand a year. And so people forget about that. And the consumer is not focusing on that unless they're being educated by a lender or a realtor, in my opinion.
Yep, I think you're right. Right
Can you tell
on.
I'm passionate about that just a little bit?
Very, very passionate.
Mhm. Yes, because I have conversations even with my client before you. He was talking about buying a more expensive home, and I said, something to think about is 4% of a million is going to make you more than 4% on 200,000 of appreciation. When he goes to sell $1 million home versus a $200,000 home, he's going to make more. And not that that's the only thing you should consider, but it is part of the puzzle.
Mhm, for sure.
Mhm.
Well, I think we know, in part when we look at the potential for $1 million house. I mean, number one, especially in the Midwest, housing shortages. We don't have a lot of homes, across the board. Fargo obviously has a lot. Horace has like 9 to 10 months supply of homes, with all the new construction that's going there. But I actually today had about a 45-minute conversation as I was out watching my daughter play at tennis camp, and we talked about housing and someone who's very, very passionate in our area. And so I think, in some of the more rural areas, got to find, you know, some bright minds and kind of put them together because we have such a shortage and such an affordability issue. And, then I read this, Kayla, where it talks about our commander in chief
Mhm.
canceling signing of the largest housing affordability bill in
Mhm.
generation just because of, political fighting, kind of within the ranks and, give me what I want and I'll give you what you want. It's kind of disappointing because, we really need, some respite, some
Mhm.
reprieve, you know, in the housing market.
Do you think, Andy, this is something I've been thinking on a lot, is in that article, it talks about, interest rates are still such a driver of, people not buying. Well, okay, but 2020 and 21, we saw abnormal rates. So people still compare to this odd year. Do you think that interest rates are what is causing the issues of affordability, or do you feel like there's more to it?
I feel like there's a lot more to it. I mean, certainly interest rates are something that, are talked about quite openly. And I mean, it's the one comparison point that everybody has access to. It's published. So I think that's, an easy thing for people to cling to, even though realistically, rates are really much the same as they have been, which
Mm-hmm.
really isn't exciting, but it's better than more volatility. Where I think a big issue is, and I read an article not long ago where it said, on average, Kayla, adding to the cost of new construction or new home builds, there's about $122,000 of cost that's added based on government regulations that trickle down, to whether it's the manufacturers of the components, permitting and standards, um, permitting fees, zoning,
Mm-hmm.
HOA regulation, et cetera, that
Mm-hmm.
add unnecessarily to the cost of building a home.
Mm-hmm. Well, and people don't necessarily recognize that, but when there's lack of inventory, of course, people are going to build. And, there's a lot of builders around here that throw in, incentives, free lots, 20 grand off closing costs. And, I think that it probably becomes a quick solution, especially around here. We do new builds all the time, and it's been great for our business too. And I built a new home. But when you think of it in the big, the big picture, is it the best use of your money? I mean, that's for you to decide, but I didn't know that about that. Oh, you said 122,000?
About 122,000.
It's interesting. Oof, man.
Very interesting.
The more you know.
The more you know. Speaking of the more you know, Kayla, do you think if you're going to go buy a house somewhere, so when we sell a house, we've got to fill out seller's property disclosures generally and disclose to the best of our knowledge, any defects or any issues
Mhm.
with the house or anything that would, cause someone to maybe not enjoy the property. Where should the line be drawn on disclosures? And so let's say you had a bad neighbor. Is that something that you should have to disclose?
Define bad.
Oh, I don't know. Like, let's say you were selling your house and there was a neighbor that was, that was really mean to your dogs and mean to you guys,
Oh,
hated animals. And, is that something you should disclose, or are you just ignoring it because, hey, we want to get out of here? Um,
oh, it's tough because I think it's kind of, opinion based, like I might not get along with them. They might, those neighbors are loud, but I'm loud. Like, I don't know. I mean, I would say no. I'm guessing it's not a requirement, but what do you think?
No, it certainly isn't. But, I mean, you do hear a lot of people saying that, like, hey, how are the neighbors? And it's, of course, always funny when you're in rural communities. Oh, I grew up in this neighborhood. I know that person and that person and this person. And, or, pull up Onyx Hunt on your phone. Oh, that's where so and so lives. But, when you get, I mean, increasingly into most communities and especially larger communities, like, people don't know their neighbors. But, here was an article in Minneapolis, Kayla, that I've never seen anything this bizarre, but a Minneapolis man was shot outside of his home.
Oh my gosh.
And he's suing the former owners for not disclosing that the neighbor was bad. And so this individual thinks you should have to disclose it. So one of his neighbors in 2024 shot him. He said the people who sold him the house should have raised a red flag, which that'll be really, really interesting. But he was shot while trimming a tree in his front yard. And the neighbor is the individual accused of pulling the trigger. This guy said, hey, he had multiple complaints he had made to the police in the area. No one took anything seriously. And he said further, at no time during the negotiation or closing process did the former owners disclose any of the incidents they dealt with. And they were not simply selling the property as part of a typical move. They were fleeing a deeply hostile and threatening situation.
Hmm, that's interesting. Oh, um, okay. I go back to the 38 calls though, because I mean, did the sellers have any issues with this person? Like, I think that's tough. Like,
There was a restraining. It said there was a restraining order in 2015 filed by the
Oh,
resident who lived in the same home.
oh, okay.
They
Sorry, I missed
wrote
that.
about the individual, and they were afraid something terrible might happen before something is done.
Hmm.
And yeah,
I mean, don't you have to disclose if someone died in a property?
no, a homicide you have to disclose, but not a natural death, not a suicide.
Okay.
I think it depends on the state as well.
Mm,
What
You
say you?
know, I still think that there, hmm, it's hard, Andy. I don't know. I think the right thing to do is be like, hey, look out, but then what? I mean,
Where do you draw the line, though? Like, where do you draw the
I
line as
don't
far as
know.
what you should or what you shouldn't? I don't know that it's reasonable to have to, disclose a bad neighbor. I think if you are moving somewhere, it makes sense to know maybe who's living around there, maybe do some research. It's easy to do criminal background searches. Even on our agency form in Minnesota, we talk about how we can get individuals' information on predatory offenders. So I think there are, and increasingly in a digital world, it's so easy to go and do research and just look around a little bit. But yeah, I think it's a kind of a perfect storm. That's probably the most bizarre thing I've ever read, Kayla, second only to the individual down in the Twin Cities. Or I guess that would be the most bizarre. The second most bizarre was the individuals that bought a house that was apparently built over like a snake den or something, and they had hundreds of snakes in their house.
Stop. Okay, well, that's a little excessive. But
Yes.
I was looking at sellers disclosures. I don't want sellers disclosures as a lender. Like, leave them out of the purchase agreement.
Right.
We don't need them. So many realtors will still send them.
Not a good
But
idea.
it kind of goes to like flood insurance. I see a lot of sellers disclosures that say no, but it's because they don't need flood insurance because they don't have a mortgage. But yet, if you're buying the property, it's like those kinds of things. It's like, well, that can impact a payment. So, I mean, I think the line is drawn. I just think there is no line. It's super blurred, but
Right.
sneaked in.
Exactly.
Oh man,
Um,
I can't say I've witnessed a lot, but I was thinking about this the other day. Is like I would like to know if I was moving to a new property if the people around me had dogs, like for barking or for just interaction, like the fence. You know what I mean? Because I've got a client that they're selling because their dogs are like this with the fence with the neighbor, and it's like,
There are animals, dogs especially, give me anxiety as an agent. I've had a lot of bad interactions, and there are just a lot of irresponsible pet owners, and it's getting worse. I mean, I look at it in rental properties. I look at it again going out and showing properties. Like people just do not have a lot of respect. People are inherently lazy when it comes to pet ownership.
not all people put their dogs in obedience school like the calendars.
Right, right. Or maybe the calendars were that neighbor or something. I don't know.
No, we weren't. No, but at a silent auction, you gotta bid
Yep,
on the obedience school. So
exactly. Well, I
no,
know. Yeah, I hear you. So.
you'll know when you get a dog, Andy. We'll still work
No,
on.
we're not getting one. My father-in-law breeds dogs, and so our girls were down hanging out and playing with these 12 baby labs, and nope, not going to happen.
Okay, famous last words, Andrew.
I know, I know. Well, Kayla, I think we've run the gamut. We've rehatched about as much as we can, and talked about so much more. So great
Yeah,
connecting as always. I hope you have a great rest of the week.
I will if you will.
See ya.
Bye.